Okay, I'll call the May 13th Port Edward School Board meeting to order. Roll call.
Ben Martinson.
Present.
Carrie Hildebrand, I am here. John Dobbin.
Here.
Leo Thomasgard. He said here. Kathy McGrath.
Oh,
I did not hear her though.
I saw you say it, but we couldn't hear you, Kathy.
Oh, that's weird here.
There we
Okay,
go.
now we got you.
And Leo, if you could make sure you speak up too.
Get up a little closer.
Okay, first item is seek a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item is conduct reorganization of the board. Item A is elect president.
I nominate John Dobbin.
I'll second it.
Are there any other nominations? We have to call for nominations 3 times. Are there any other nominations for president? Okay, hearing none. Okay, well, yeah. It's first. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay. So I am elected president. Moving on to elect vice president. Any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Leo Thomasgard.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for Leo Thomasgard. Second time, any other nominations for vice president? For the last time, any other nominations for vice president? Hearing none, take a vote. All those in favor of Leo Thomasgard for vice president, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Leo is elected vice president. Item C, elect clerk. Any nominations for a position of clerk?
I nominate Kathy McGrath. She's president. I nominate Carrie Hildebrand. Clerk.
I'll second that.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
Oh.
Yes, Okay.
I know. Paperwork.
The nomination is for Carrie Hildebrand. Any other nominations for clerk? For the third and last time, any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none, take a vote. All those in favor of Carrie Hildebrand for clerk, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Carrie is elected clerk. Next item is elect treasurer. Any nominations for the office of treasurer?
No sound.
I nominate Kathy McGrath.
Second.
Been a nomination and a second for Kathy McGrath.
Are you hearing us, Leo?
Can you hear us, Leo?
I can hear you.
Oh, now I got it.
Okay.
I heard nothing except the last syllable of Kathy's name.
Okay. Kathy's been nominated. This is the second call for any other nominations for treasurer. Third and last time, any other nominations for treasurer? Hearing none. All those in favor of Kathy McGrath for treasurer, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Kathy is elected treasurer. Okay, next item on the agenda is student recognition.
There are just a couple of items that, and I'm gonna just kind of talk from over here, that way they can hear. Just a couple items I would like to bring up. First is that if you've been looking or seeing our social media, we've had a series of art shows that have been on our social media site. So you can see the artwork of our kindergarten or our elementary school students. The second is on our social media site. We've also been featuring the members of the senior class over the last few weeks, putting out a feature for each of the graduates. And finally, you may have seen in the newspaper and on our social media and a few other places, the work of the officers of our senior class on a campaign to raise some funds for some charitable organizations in the community with the hashtag 2020 Rise Above. And I'd like to commend our senior officers and our senior class and our senior class advisor, Jen Moore, for helping all to organize that and do some good in the community. So some congratulations out to our senior class. That's all I have on Student Night Commission.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Next is the President's report. All board members are in attendance. And next board meeting is June 10th. And in July, we'll do that later. Would be July 9th. Okay.
I think it's the 8th.
Oh,
For what? For June?
yeah,
July 8th.
Oh, July.
okay. Yeah,
That's great.
we'll confirm that later, establish it later at the end. Okay. Next item is my legislative report. I'm just going to talk about the state budget a little bit. State budget next year is going to be a difficult one, and that uncertainty definitely will impact schools and our budgets. State tax collections, of course, have declined significantly. And the increases for schools that were built in for the second year of the state budget are very much in doubt. There has been implemented a 5% cut to all state agencies to help offset the lost revenue. There has been talk of freezing state spending at current levels during the second year of the state budget, which we are in right now. And losing the second year increases for schools under a freeze would be quite a challenge for all school districts. Revenue limits, general aid, per pupil aid, special education aid, aid for mental health services, all of those items are slated for increases in the second year of the budget. So it is a very uncertain time for school districts. Adding to that is whether additional federal assistance will happen for state and local governments, and that'll definitely affect schools as well, how much that happens or doesn't happen. So it is important to keep watching state government and advocate for public schools and advocate for adequate funding for public schools as well. So that's all I have for a legislative report. Moving on to administrative reports. Item A, Superintendent Croner, report on school closure status, 2020-21 budget and facility work.
Good evening. Since we last spoke, the school closure order was extended through June 30th. If you did not know, the case in front of the Supreme Court, the decision came down in the last half an hour on that case and overturned the governor's orders on the safer at home. What that completely means, obviously, that case just was ruled on in the last half an hour, so I do not know all the details of that at this point. I know that the legislature asked for a stay of that order for 6 days to allow them to promulgate some new rules. So I don't know if that was part of the Supreme Court's ruling at this point. From what I briefly read before the board meeting started, that it did not say one way or the other. In terms of the school closure as well, the legislature, in their brief to the Supreme Court, had indicated that the Department of Human Health Services did have the ability to close schools. So it's likely that there will be no effect on the school closure. And even if there was a change in that status, our ability to come back to school and mitigate potential risk within 2 weeks would be very much in doubt anyways. There's several pieces there that I'm sure would, between the bus company and the schools and all of our staff and our parents and our students, there's quite a few questions that would have to be answered yet. So that changed the beginning of my comments a little bit. So I'm going to try to pick up this past week. The Department of Health and the Department of Public Instruction jointly recommended not doing any sort of graduation ceremony at this time, including what would be the drive-up or drive-through graduations. They wanted more time for the mitigation efforts that the state has put in place to take effect. We are looking, and as you see on the board agenda later in August, to conduct, hopefully at that time, an in-person graduation, but with the idea of paring that back as we may need to at that time to answer safety concerns and questions. We are already starting to review bringing summer school in August. That would be when we would try to schedule a summer session if possible. It would probably be truncated compared to what we've typically done in the last several years. But if we can hold the summer session, it would be toward that beginning of August. Of course, there's quite a few, again, those questions that we have to answer on making sure we've done our due diligence in making the facilities safe, secure, healthy, and all of that. Make sure that not only our students protected, our staff is protected. Additionally, a working group of school administrators, representatives from the Department of Public Instruction and Health Services have started looking at the specific recommendations of the CDC on reopening schools and how to make that happen in Wisconsin. So I'm sure that work will continue through the next several weeks into June, and we're hoping by mid-June to have some more specific recommendations in place. It's likely that these recommendations will address attendance policies for both staff and students, wellness policies, cleaning procedures, nursing procedures, and procedures for even if we want to gather large groups of students together. So we're still working on a lot of that, and I know a lot of that isn't the most exciting or greatest news in the world, but it's the reality we're faced with at the moment. And certainly much of this hinges on the progress of COVID-19 by the fall and the population, potential treatments, and potential vaccine. Mr. Dobbin commented a bit on the budget. I will just add a few items to that. One is, word is already that we're hearing is that there's a potential $2 to $3 billion shortfall this coming year on the state budget. Removing items such as so there was supposed to be a scheduled $179 per pupil increase in the revenue limit. That would likely be removed. And so that would be that alone would be for us anywhere from an $80,000 to $90,000 loss of revenue. Now, it's hard to tell at this point what that really means over the entire budget, what general aid would look like and whatnot. I had a conversation with a state lobbyist today for educational entities on the budget, and probably for us, a couple of the saving pieces for our particular budget, because every school will be affected differently, is the fact that we did have a growing enrollment going into this current situation. So that growth in enrollment would hopefully help us out moving forward, because even if there is a freeze, let's say, in how revenue limit is calculated, it might not freeze our particular revenue due to the fact that the formula already had us increasing. They would maybe freeze, not allow us to have that per pupil dollar increase, but we still may be allowed our revenue limit increase based on just simply the number of pupils that we account for. So there's some of those things that are certainly going to be unanswered, and as Mr. Dobbin said, there's a lot of uncertainty at this time in that budget picture. As well, we passed the referendum a year ago. That probably provides us a little bit of insulation in our budget from some of those negative effects that either cuts or a freeze would have. With that, one of the items that the legislature has asked a lot of questions about lately has been a fund balance of school districts across the state. Our fund balance had been whittled away the last few years, and we were hoping to maintain or possibly increase at least our fund balance a bit this next year. Still probably possible. The interesting piece, the legislature sees the fund balance, sometimes it's a lack of understanding that it's not, for most schools, this isn't a savings account. This is simply cash funds on June 30th. And the reason those cash funds exist on June 30th is the largest state aid payment comes about June 15th. So at the very end of the fiscal year, we get the largest payment from the state. We also have to book the taxes we'll collect in August. So because we have an August tax collection, those taxes actually go and get booked on that June 30th fund balance. So that money, we don't even have it in the bank, but we got to book it as if we had it on June 30th. So that's significant dollars. For us, those things make up almost all of our fund balance, which simply funds into the next school year. So for us, it's simply a cash reserve on June 30th, and it allows us to start up operations. And ours is not so great that we avoid short-term borrowing. We do a bit of that, and one of the pieces we wanted to try to do is work our way out of that. So the effect of all of this on our budget for next year is certainly uncertain. Probably the worst case scenario in this is that the legislature sits on their hands, which they may or may not do. It is an election year, and sometimes legislatures don't take a lot of action in election years. Probably the worst case scenario is they sit on their hands and don't do anything until after the election, push it off, and then try to repair the budget after the election. The problem for us with that is we start our fiscal year on July 1, and we have to have all of our taxes and everything set by November 1. So if they come and repair the budget after that, that could have some dire consequences across the state, not just on us. But again, just in looking at this and trying to have at least a positive lens to it is, we do maybe have a couple of insulating factors for us, the increase in enrollment and the referendum. Finally, I just want to bring you up to speed on some of the facility work this spring and summer. At the elementary school, work on the library, the hallway, and the office floors is completed for the most part. There's a small section of hallway floor that's got to get completed yet. We've also changed out light fixtures in all those areas to LED. And we've utilized some funds that we had designated in a referendum maintenance projects to flooring and lighting in the music and kindergarten areas as well. Took advantage of the fact that school was not going to be in session. We were trying to do what we could in the summer, but realizing that we could get a bit more done, we took that on. We've also been working on doing some maintenance upgrades in our kitchen with ceiling and lighting and paint and some things in the elementary kitchen as well. Since, again, we're not utilizing that space at the moment, we're trying to get some things taken care of. In the high school area here, we do have, we're going to replace fluorescent lighting to LED in some of our high traffic and use areas such as our bus and athletic lobby and hallways where those lights tend to be on from 7 a.m. until 9 at night, trying to tackle some of those projects and get those out of the way. We're also working on replacing numerous countertops in the middle school classroom areas. Many of these are original to when those sections were added in the 50s and 60s. And so doing some of those upgrades. We have a few plumbing and heating upgrades we're working on as well, and still waiting out on a couple other bids for work that we had planned to do on the front of the building to the pillars, and a few other maintenance items that have developed. The roof work is still scheduled for July on the tech ed and music areas. And at the end of June, we're going to work to convert that walk-in freezer that we had tried to do over spring break in the high school addition. We're going to work to convert that from water-cooled to a refrigerant-based system at the end of June. So one last item, really does, it has a facility effect that I want to give the board an update on, is we are right now in the process, and I've been working on writing 2 grants to the Legacy Foundation. The first grant is probably what I would call the big picture grant, or the big grant. Mr. Ayers, who's been asked for a bit of input, might call that the state championship grant. But it's a bigger grant. It really is going to be a grant for anywhere from $1 million to $1.2 million. And that would be the addition of, let's call it a performance and wellness lab, or fitness and wellness lab to the building. Right now, our current weight room fitness facility is 590 square feet. Not very big. You fit about 10 to 15 students in there, and you're going to bump into each other. And then if you're all slinging weight at the same time, you're really going to bump into each other. So it's not a very big facility. It's not very conducive to larger groups of any kind. And it really limits us even within classes and what we can do. The plan that we have been working on at the moment would be to add a facility, if we would be able to get the grant, to the south of the Dorothy and Alexander Auditorium here. It wouldn't connect to this, but it would be on that lawn area kind of between here and the music room and the tech ed room, out of that entrance area there. We'd be looking at anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. And we have been able to work with CISA 10 facilities management on the basics of the development of that. And they are doing that work at this point for no compensation. But with the caveat that if we were to get the grant, they could come in and help manage that project with us. And that's where they would see project management type compensation, because there would be engineering and things that would need to be accomplished to get that done. The second grant we are writing, the Legacy, is basically the, what if we wouldn't get the first grant, what could we do with the space we currently have to really, hopefully help that space, and so a much smaller grant. Probably one of the around about $40,000 to $60,000. We have worked with and consulted with the YMCA, UW Stevens Point, on both on this grant writing, because obviously we do not want to. We're not in the business of competing with the YMCA. We don't want to do that. They're building a brand new big facility, and Legacy is funding that. So in part, so we don't want to step on those toes. So we want to work with them, and they've given us many ideas and some thoughts around how it really wouldn't be what we would do really wouldn't be mimicking what they do. There may be a level of community access we would allow in this. There may not be. It really would depend on the development of the project and how that goes. In part, we're not asking the community to fund this at the moment, so we're not looking at it to necessarily be a community access facility, but there may be a component of that that we work into at the end of the day. These grants are due to the Legacy Foundation by the end of this month. CISA 10 has drawn up some very preliminary, just mock-up floor plans of how this would look. How it would be added to the building. It would probably utilize the existing entrance of there and make kind of a foyer area there, and then also be some bathrooms. And it would be set up so that there could be a level of community access, and yet not access to the rest of the school facility. So it's been kind of exciting. It's been fast-paced at this point. Mr. Thomas, our physical education teacher, who's taken on the construction of the weight room, has worked with some companies to get some mock-ups of equipment, things, and pricing. And CISA 10 has given us those preliminary estimates on what it would take to do this. So That is the last bit of the facility piece. Obviously, it wouldn't be a project that even if we were to get those grants, that we'd be able to start until next year. And the grant process is not a submit, it's a submit and then move on to a second phase of the grant process where they want even more detail and more information. So it takes about 3 or 4 months, this grant process with Legacy Foundation.
With the second one, is that, it's just rearranging what we do have now?
It'd probably be completely re-equipping it and arranging it to make the space as usable as possible. There's some things we could do, different equipment we could have, equipment that would fold up against the walls when not in use and things like that, that would probably just help the efficiency of the space we do have. We are able to give these grants to Legacy Foundation to review and give us feedback as well. And then we're willing to do that until it's set. So I'm hoping to actually have it in our hands by either Friday or Monday. We're working on a bit of a revision right now, so.
Kyle,
Yes,
is it possible for us to get into the elementary school to take a look at that flooring project?
yes, just let me know and I can walk you in there. Yeah.
Good time, bad time?
I'm at work pretty much every day, so if you just give me a bit of a heads up a day in advance, and I'll make sure on my calendar that I've got the time.
All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Okay. Up here, okay.
Oh,
Oh.
All right, thank you for that, Kyle. Next item is report on elementary end of the year plan, Principal Christie.
She is reconnecting into the meeting as we speak, so
We go to the C.
she should be on momentarily.
Or I can.
She's on right now.
There.
Can you hear me?
Yep. And you're,
Okay, sorry, I got bumped out.
and you're up.
Okay, all right, good deal. Okay, I didn't hear what Kyle presented on most of it, so if it's a repeat, I'm sorry. Just an update on, our last day of school and how we're going to do the end of the year at the elementary school. Obviously, our official last day is still June 3rd. However, in order to collect our materials and wrap things up, we are going to, on May 27th and 28th, have a curbside drop-off and pickup service. In order to get things back from the students that we need and to give them their items back from inside the school, we are going to have teachers have everything labeled with their names on it. And since we have those outside doors where we can have everything lined up and we can have the kids, parents drive right up, we'll have our aides helping us out with, clipboards where they can pull up to that corner. We'll have walkie-talkies ready. They can pull right up to the curb and we can make the exchange. Teachers are making lists of specific things they need back from students, and we will have everything bagged up with their names on it for what we need to give them back, if there's anything left in the building that they need back. So we're just going to kind of do a curbside pickup and drop off. Teachers are volunteering to come in. Kids just kind of want to see their faces and say goodbye for the summer. So we've got that all set and ready to go with various times on those 2 days so that we can do that. As far as report cards go for kids at the elementary school, since we have standards-based grades, we decided to have teachers take just a couple standards and kind of pare those down for reading and math, mainly, maybe a couple science and social studies, depending on the grade. And they communicated that to those parents as to what specific standards they would be looking for, just a couple, that they would be giving some sort of feedback for the end of the year. And if they do not have enough information for some kids, they would we have another couple symbols for that, so that we at least have some sort of feedback for parents, but not overwhelming, just some sort of assessment. And then summer school, looking at doing the first 2 weeks in August, if possible. We're planning for it so that we have it all ready to go. We are hoping, again, waiting to hear what DPI tells us as well. But we want to have it ready to go, if possible, to have the first 2 weeks that we could potentially have just a kind of a kickstart getting kids back ready those first 2 weeks of August, so that then we need that week before so we can get teachers back in, get ready to do some professional development and get ready for the beginning of the school year. But we're looking to hopefully have some things ready to go for those first 2 weeks of August, depending on what the rules are as far as getting kids back into the building. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for
Yeah.
Karen? Go ahead, Kathy.
I
Oh,
just said thanks,
okay.
Karen.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next item is report on middle school, high school, end of the year plan. Principal Schroeder.
I'm going to copy some of the things Kara said. Our admin team has worked diligently together. I'm still looking for Principal 101 in a pandemic because this has kind of been crazy. I've had lots of support and I feel like more than a leader, I've been can you hear me?
Yeah, write a book. Kathy said.
I know. I feel like more of a leader. I've been a support system for teachers, students, and parents. Everybody's on a roller coaster. One day everybody's at a high and things are going well. The next day technology hits and kids are sending stuff and it's not going through and parents don't understand the assignments and teachers don't realize it might be too much or too little. And so I've been the go-between all of them. Like I said, everybody's got their peaks and valleys. I've relied on Kyle, but Kyle didn't go through a pandemic the last 6-7 years as a principal. I've been in constant communication with the CWC, the principals in our district, or Kusar Rapids if need be. I'm zoomed out. Every time I plan something, and I'm going to go through that in a couple seconds, I went to Kyle's office and we said, no, the Department of Public Instruction says no, or listen to the Zoom, the health department recommends this. What I found out there though is most of the parents just want something to go on. So everything we put in place, and you'll read the packet, is kind of, plan A, B, C, and D. So for the first one, the graduation, parents wanted some kind of celebration. A lot of our colleagues said June, and that's kind of what I told Kyle. And I thought we were going to be reopening the last 2 weeks of May, and I was all excited. And now I realize that June wouldn't have even been feasible. The drive-throughs, they're saying there's liability, it's not recommended. So we pushed ours as far as we can go August 8th. We have Plan A, B, and C. We asked the kids what they want, and Jen interviewed a lot of kids and talked to parents, and myself included, and they want it as normal as possible. So that's our plan, to start out as normal as possible and see where we're at that date. And if we have some, orders from the DPI or health department, we'll honor those. If it's 50 or less, maybe we cut down to parents and the kids, and if it's just the kids, or if we need to go out to the football field and do social distancing still with families, or, so we're gonna play it by ear until that date. And we'll try to, planning will be as normal as possible. But we do have a date, they're excited about it, and they can make plans. So we'll go from there. The second flyer I gave you, and all the parents and families are getting this, is our pickup and exchange date. I've been working with a lot of people on that. We're gonna have the teachers there also, and staff and aides. It's gonna be out of our high school gym, where we're gonna actually quarantine, we're gonna collect material, quarantine it for about 4 or 5 days before we go anywhere with it, because all of our rooms are clean right now for safety. We'll be greeting them with masks and gloves. It'll be a drive-through basis, so it won't be a big congregation group. So we planned all that out, and this went out today in today's mail. So our last date is June 3rd. We've been having the teachers wrap it up at the end of May. At this date, we will accept and, pick up and give back material, except for the kids that need to finish their classes. So our teachers will be still expected to work till June 3rd and June 5th. And Ms. Moore and I will be in contact with those parents, kids, and, with the materials, because some of them will still be their technology, their tech devices. So we've got that planned, and then last, believe it or not, the kids want prom. So we set this a week or so before graduation, because most of the seniors said, hey, after we graduate, they don't really want to come back for a prom. So this is a week or 2 weeks before graduation, if we can pull this off. And they know that, again, it says tentative, depending what the orders are at that time. Because a lot of money and time has been spent already in this. Girls have their dresses and decorations being made and everything. So again, everything is tentative to what we're allowed. Like I said, every time I walk out of Kyle's office, it's one day I think the kids are coming back, and then the next day they were closed, and we're kind of playing it by ear. I know that upsets some people that there's no definite, but there is no normal right now, and we all know that. And then the last thing that we were kind of working on today is senior dessert, recognizes the seniors, and they get all their awards. And that's usually done, with strawberry shortcake in the cafeteria, and it's not being, so we're doing it virtually. Ms. Moore, being their advisor, is clipping all the video together, and everybody's doing their awards, and then we'll send it to them. They will bake the goodies, and it will be a celebration at home. But we're trying to make it as pleasant as possible. And I think that's it, unless you have any questions. Like I said, it's been a roller coaster for all, and I think teachers have been wonderful. They're teachers because they love kids. And although they love technology, they want to be with the kids. It's way easier. I think the kids have realized, hey, the school is social. And I think parents realize that we don't have a teacher for a reason. So we've all had challenges, but everybody's been really flexible, patient, and good about everything. Do you have any questions for me?
Now, could we get an email copy of that packet that you handed out?
Oh, yes. As I walked in, I thought about that, sorry. Yes.
Or Donna, just leave them in
Yes?
Donna, you could just leave them in the office if we're coming over to sign those
Oh,
cards.
okay,
Oh, that'll work too.
okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Good suggestion.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, move on to the consent agenda. Number 6, consider approval of minutes of the past meeting of April 8th, 2020.
So moved.
Motion by Kathy, seconded by Ben. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All right,
All those opposed? Motion is approved. Number 7, consider approval of financial reports. And do we have gifts, Lisa?
Yes, we have budget revisions as well as, yes, budget revisions for April are we received a supplemental payment to our common school funds, which supports our library, in the amount of $2,557. The original amount we received was $18,602, so that was a nice little extra for our library. Mrs. Perchmar is busy spending it this year yet. And then I also did a budget revision to account for all of the PEEP grants. And our donations and gifts for the month of April, $200 from Ben and Katie Martinson for our food service department for the grab and go meals. Raymond Weber, again, donated another $500. And then Ellen Cobbs donated $50. In her letter, she stated that she had received something from someone, and when she offered to pay them, they told her to pay it forward. So she sent the school district $50, and that was put in the Families Helping Families account.
Excellent. Okay, with that report, seek a motion to approve the financial reports.
So move.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 all right.
All those opposed? Motion carried. There is no unfinished business. We move on to new business. Number 8, consider approval of 2020-2021 support staffing plan.
That plan was sent out to your board packets, and I would ask that you approve that plan. Right now, we're not planning any major changes However, as it is the support staffing plan, we do have some flexibility that we can change this plan at any point going forward should we need to respond to budget, if we have budget issues that would cause us to have to make some changes. There's, we've looked at things, and at the moment, I don't think we're gonna have to do that, but again, we can respond to that at a later point. This plan, just approving it tonight allows us to issue reasonable assurance letters to the support staff that do not work through the summer months, and let them know that we can see if they would have a job in the fall. At least from a staffing levels perspective, not recommending any changes at the moment. We may alter a few of the jobs along the way and a few of the job descriptions, but again, no changes on the levels at the moment.
I move for approval of the 2021 support staff plan.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I will abstain from voting on this.
Carrie will abstain. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? And one abstention. Motion carried. Next item is consider approval of high school athletic pay plan at 25% for spring of 2020.
So after doing some polling with the coaching staff, we've come up with a plan to acknowledge some of the pre-planning and work by the coaching staff in trying to prepare for this spring season. Additionally, track had started, but in acknowledging the preparation work that's done to get a season underway, and with some responses from the coaching staff, it seems rather agreeable that 25% pay plan would be something that everybody seemed to think was fair. So I propose that to you, to pay 25% of the level that we had anticipated paying. And we've been working with a bit of the savings on that particular budget line to see if there are some things that we can do to address facility needs or other needs within those athletic areas.
I move acceptance.
I will second it.
Okay, motion by Leo, seconded by Carrie. Any other discussion? Hearing none, take a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, consider approval of graduation date change for the 2019-20 school year to August 8th, 2020.
We're going to ask the Board of Education at this time to approve that date change. And again, with the understanding that ceremonies and things may look a bit differently.
I will make a motion to approve the date change.
Second.
Second.
Motion
Second.
by Carrie, second by Ben. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, that motion is approved. Number 11, consider approval of instructional materials for K-12 science and 3rd through 9th English language arts.
We took on quite a big project this year in working on curriculum. The science and English language arts staffs started meeting way back in September and met many times. We utilized some expert services from outside the district, but within our area to the curriculum folks at CISA 5. They helped guide some of that process with both the science and the English staff. Additionally, that staff, as they looked at curriculum resource materials, looked at things that address the standards that we've adopted, and looked at how could they best modernize those materials as well. Almost all of the materials come with some sort of online component as well. So moving forward, those components would as well be available. If you look through your board packet, we sent you a lot of quotes. The quotes represent what we are forwarding to you as the recommendations that we've got from those staff groups that have been working and studying that and looking at materials. They did look at multiple different vendors, multiple different materials. They were not focused on one particular set of materials at any given point as the best. So they tried to, they tried to weigh the pros and cons of the different things. The science folks have really settled on four different vendors. And really right now at the elementary, they're looking to incorporate a program called Mystery Science. It's very hands-on. It is subscription-based. There's not really a textbook that goes with this. It's more of materials and activities that really are hands-on and get kids engaged into the hands-on aspects of science. At the middle level, between Mr. Stelpole and Ms. Peters, they looked at materials from McGraw-Hill and have forwarded that on to you as a program called Inspire Science. And in more so in the high school, looked at using materials from Pearson that are updated, as well as a publisher called Kendall Hunt. The total cost of redoing K-12 science in terms of resource materials comes out to about $37,090. Those would include 6-year subscriptions on the online materials and any of the consumable print materials. In the English language arts area, again, that staff was really working at the 3rd grade through 9th grade level is what we tackled. And one of the interesting pieces is we use a program at the elementary, the kindergarten through 2nd grade called Super Kids. That program really does focus on a lot of reading and helping out the reading. The English language arts is more than that, but we've got the writing, we've got the grammar involved. The teachers in the 3rd through 5th grade, after looking at 3 different vendors, really liked the material from McGraw-Hill and how it transitioned from what the students were doing in the 2nd grade and into the 3rd and 4th grade. They really liked the transition there. And in the 6th through 9th grade, they looked at a set of materials from Pearson called My Perspectives. That program's strong in writing and reading. All these programs contain elements of that and the grammar. These programs also contain elements of full novel reading and or book reading and leveled book reading at the elementary grades. The English language arts, it's actually more extensive in the resource materials just based on the fact that you're not only dealing with reading, you're dealing with writing, you're dealing with the grammar pieces, you're also dealing with, in many cases, getting novels and those kinds of materials. That total came to $47,409 for a grand total of about $84,000. And I've asked Kara and Donna as well if they have would like to add to that. So.
Back last year, I just want to let you know, I thought the groups are kind of new.
before Kyle said even study any of the curriculum. I thought they did an awesome job, and I sat with them last year and said, what's our needs and what's our wants? And they studied the standards and the test results from the year before, like what are we weak in? So like he said, they wanted to challenge the kids, and the Pearson actually did a great job of it. And then on one of our in-service days, they went from 7 to 4 o'clock, and all these people flew in from all over and gave them presentations, and I felt like they were prepared for that because they were ready to go with questions. So they knew what they wanted and what they were looking for, and they just, went at it and said, do you have this? What will you give us? What will you provide us? What will, So I think they did a really good job, and I think they feel really good about, that it'll help our students in the areas that they might be weak in to complement the material, that they already use. So I think they're prepared, and I think they feel really good about their choice. Kara, do you have anything?
Just a quick question. So the new curriculum, is it a lot more, obviously with COVID-19, a lot more online based? Is that some of the curriculum more hands-on friendly for computers and things like that?
There are aspects of all of that included, science and English.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is, and they spent, when they came here, they were in the middle school resource room, and they just whizzed, they only had like 2-3 hours apiece. I think our teachers, knowing this now, and we want to get the material as soon as possible, so they have all summer to study it, and having done this and not knowing where we'll be in fall, are gonna dig into that, more so, because they better be prepared, or,
The textbooks are
It is.
slowly starting to
Right.
be a thing of the past.
Right. So they all showed us the complementary material, or the material to substitute the books. So like you're right, maybe they don't have to take their textbook home, or their questions or whatever, it would be all accessible online. Even if we are at school and they go home and they have homework. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
But they're gonna have to spend some time prepping that, and they know that.
Each of the programs does come with in-service that's provided. So for the English language and arts, they'll receive in-service time from the vendors as part of what they are trying to bring themselves up to speed on what these programs all involve. So
I make a motion on the curriculum update.
I have no sound at all.
I just,
Oh,
just lost you on audio at the very end there.
Kyle, your mic is muted.
Your mic is muted.
I know mine is, because if I unmute it, there's too much feedback in the room.
So Ben made a motion, and I'm gonna second the motion to approve the curriculum upgrades.
That's fine.
All right, and hearing no other discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. That motion is approved. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of 2020-2021 student handbook. One at a time.
Everything there is online in the packet. Unless there's something else, I'll move accepted.
Right, there's not a lot of changes, and this is the first year that I worked with Ernestine on it. As you can notice, they were minor. The calendars, obviously, are all new. The only thing we didn't put in there, and I'll tell you why, parent-teacher conferences. Right before this happened, the high school asked me if we could go to, rather than 2 days in fall, they would like 1 day in fall. And they were talking about having a day in spring, because their semester classes happen, and they don't have any contact with those parents sometimes. So that's what we're looking at doing for high school. Middle school, I haven't had a chance to meet with Shane and make sure it's at the best time for sport, like, we've got a little lull between fall and winter sports. That's it. Otherwise, you can see that I have included, because I'm so trained in that, the restorative piece. Instead of giving maybe the 5th or 6th time of a dress code or, a problem in the office, the parents are notified quicker and things happen quicker. because usually then, the pattern kind of stops or decreases. Otherwise, just at a glance, there aren't any big changes. Do you have any questions for me? And again, this goes in the handbook of the kids too, their copies, so. Questions?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
I'll make a motion to approve of 2020-2021 student handbooks.
I'll second that motion. A motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 13, consider approval of 2020-21 lunch, breakfast, and milk prices.
Over the last several years, our food service has operated in the black, and it's actually accumulated a small fund balance within food service. That fund balance is separate at the end of the day from our general fund balance, but we are able to use it to make improvements such as the upgrade to the walk-in freezer. Being as we've operated in the black, and especially with the current situation in the state of affairs with the economy, we are not recommending any changes to those prices. In years past, we've had to do some mandatory price changing based on how the formula works for that, but right now we don't have to. And so we recommend keeping those prices static.
I'll move acceptance.
I'll second.
Second.
Sorry.
Take your pick, Lisa.
That's Mary.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
We're 100% sure they're good on that.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item is first reading, update to policy number 6116, time and effort reporting.
If I could say this policy has everything to do with Lisa, but I'm the one who's got to make the recommendation on the update. This update comes as a recommendation from the Department of Public Instruction relative to how the district utilizes federal funds to compensate employees during a crisis such as our current school closure. Basically, our policy service said our policy was okay, but the DPI is recommending all schools add this particular language to really make sure we're okay. And basically what it is we can continue to pay the employees with federal funds even though school is closed. But we will have to go back and report what we've done to the feds if they so ask. That's the short version of this policy update.
I will make a motion that we approve the update
Do we have to bring it back?
We'll do this one on a second. We'll go normal procedure. We can come and do this one back.
So we're not.
Yeah, no.
We're not in a big hurry.
Okay. Any other discussion on that one? All right, next item on the agenda. Commemoration of elementary school facility to honor retired elementary school principal and Port Edwards Education Foundation founding member Ed Hoyer.
So an idea that's been floated around, I know, at different times over the past several years and even many years ago, has been the idea of basically naming something in honor of Ed Hoyer. And this evening I bring to you this thought process of commemorating the elementary school to honor Ed Hoyer. So basically changing a slight name change of the elementary school. And as you probably read in my board report, Ed Hoyer has had a strong legacy in the district and the community. He served 21 years as the K-8 principal. He was actually the first Port Edwards Elementary School principal from 1969 to 1990. Then in 1996, he went on to be one of the founding members of the Port Edwards Education Foundation and serving as its first president during almost the entire time of that foundation's existence up until about a year ago when Corey Searles was named the president as Ed stepped down. Ed has volunteered hundreds and probably thousands of hours to the district in all kinds of capacities throughout all of his years here, and especially the last 30 years, as well as serving at one point as a softball coach during his career. So I would put forth that idea that to honor Mr. Hoyer's legacy, that the board rename the elementary school is some derivative of either Port Edwards Hoyer Elementary School or Port Edwards Ed Hoyer Elementary School in his honor. Board policy allows you to do that for somebody both living and or deceased. So you can do that in the name of, but they do have to be not an employee of the school district, meaning they're no longer currently employed by the district. In speaking with Ed's family, they, we spoke with them about Ed. I believe Ed just celebrated, I think it was an 89th birthday. Ed is still serving on the Port Edwards Education Foundation board, and he was actively participating in a Zoom meeting of that board this morning. You may have noticed, though, Ed's not been biking around quite as much in the last couple of years, but he is, certainly still an active part of the community and the school community. Renaming this facility really, aside from doing some changing on some paperwork with the Department of Public Instruction in our school directory name and some sign work, there's really no other fiscal cost to that. And Ed's family discussed with them this idea without really discussing it with Ed. So Ed doesn't, as far as I know, Ed doesn't know this is coming up. But Ed's family was certainly honored to even have that discussion, and said that I asked him specifically about the name. Ed signed everything as Edwin. However, I think the family felt that either Ed or just Hoyer, if something was done, would be appropriate. So I will leave that in your hands from there.
I'd like to suggest that we, given the creation of signage and some of the logistic parts of this, that if we approve this and leave Kyle and the family's discretion in terms of exactly how it's going to be structured, that would give them freedom to act according to what would be most expedient. I don't know if we want to tie it into a specific phrase or a specific letter. We just give the Hoyer family and Kyle the carte blanche to contact sign vendors and make this come about as soon as it can. And that would be my thought. I don't know if we want to. I don't know if we want to make the motion specific enough to say that it must be the Ed Hoyer Elementary School or not. I mean, I don't know what the rest of you guys think.
I like Ed Hoyer.
I think that can be left up to the family and to Kyle.
Exactly.
I would, I guess I would like the board, though, to make, you will need to make a motion. And I would think keeping the name Port Edwards in would be, that's the least, people won't get confused if the name Port Edwards is still in it. They'll still know what it is.
We're not hearing it, I'm sorry.
I just said that the board does need to make some kind of motion, though, directing that, but I would also suggest that leaving the name Port Edwards in the school name is wholly appropriate and keeps, it doesn't confuse people as to where we are or what we are. So.
That's certainly fine.
The only thing I would say, the Port Edwards, if we leave Port Edwards, if Port Edwards Ed Hoyer is a mouthful.
Yes. Leave them, just Port Edwards Hoyer.
Port Edwards Hoyer.
Yeah, I like
Port
that.
Edwards Ed Hoyer is a lot to say.
Port Edwards Hoyer Elementary, I like that, but
And it can be acknowledged that it's in a
If they
sign
want
or
to.
something
Yeah.
that it's Edward, but maybe the proper way that it is Port Edwards Hoyer. That way it's not having Edwards and follow each other.
And then, then people will shorten to Hoyer Elementary, I can see that eventually going that way. And then if people still look it up on Google, Port Edwards Hoyer Elementary, they can find it that way. But Port Edwards and Hoyer is, that's a little clumsy.
Right,
Well, yeah, I'll make the motion to,
I can support that. You want that in the form of a motion, Carol?
That's just the linguistics part of me, the rest is totally up to you, I'm just, the way it's ringing in my ears.
No, I agree with you. I think, well, John, you said that sounds a good deal, so.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to rename the elementary school Port Edwards Hoyer Elementary School with the amendment, I guess, that if they want to change, if the family does want to change it somehow, that they can.
That we work with them.
But that we work with them and figure something out that way.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Yep. Amen.
I'll second that.
all right, Kathy seconded. And any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed? Right, motion carried. Next
Very
item.
pleased that this is happening.
Yeah.
Amen. Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that forward.
I will talk with his family on how best to notify him.
Well, maybe he's watching.
He might be watching.
There you have it.
All right. Next item is opportunity for individual board member comments. We will start with Ben.
Went through a lot of information tonight regarding end of the year. It's gonna be obviously different things to the staff, administration, teachers, family, everybody involved or whatever, to get this end of the school year put in the books, I guess. Hoping for a good start come next August, and I think things are moving in that direction. Curriculum, a lot of good things happening, schools getting cleaned up and landscaping and cleaning, so a lot of good things happening on the building. Thanks to everybody. Hopefully every meeting we keep talking more about coming back to school in the spring and the fall. That's the main goal here. That's all I have.
Thanks.
Just a quick comment on the senior class and how they could have kind of closed in to finish their senior year, but rather do the fundraiser that they've done. And we probably wouldn't expect anything different from that class, or to be honest, most any of the classes from John Edwards High School. So it just always seemed to have a different and more positive outlook, and it's really good to see what they've done and really commend them for your help in coaching them along. So that is it.
Thank you. We'll go Kathy.
I'm very excited to see all the signs around the village for each of the seniors. That was wonderful, and the big banner as you come into Port Edwards from Rapids. I think that's really nice. And also with the website, school website, Facebook page honoring each of the students. That's been really wonderful.
All right, Leo.
Thanks to Kyle for his letter to Representative Krug and Senator Cuskins. Well said, well spoken. It's good to keep that communication open. Thank you for doing that.
All right. Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody. Our next meeting is June, so school year will be officially over then. So thanks for a great year, everybody in Port School. And I enjoyed the the social media senior updates too. I'm enjoying them, reading them as well. So. All right, future board meetings will be June 10th, and everybody all right with July 8th?
Yes.
I would, I will just give you just a comment on future board meetings. There may be a need to schedule, ask that the board consider a special session within the next week to deal with the bus contract. We have made some progress on negotiating the end of this year's bus contract and how that would look. So we may need to schedule something just to get that done with and ended. So right now waiting, and it could be next week. And I will certainly reach out to you, Mr. Godwin, and work on if we need to get that scheduled. So.
Did you hear that, Leo? Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
About the last half of it.
Yeah. We may need a special session next week.
Okay.
Okay. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. 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 All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.